Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kat. So in today's video, we're going to be talking a little bit about domestic violence and maybe help somebody who is in a situation they don't know how to get out of, they need to get out of, or just strength to notice some of the signs and traits of a narcissist and a domestic abuser. The reason why I have Chris Watts on screen is because he is known as the Family Annihilator. And if you don't know what that means, it means that he annihilated his entire family for a mistress, thinking that he could have a better life and a new life, and his wife and 2 daughters meant absolutely nothing to him. The Family Annihilator is supposed to be the most vile of all the abusers. They don't see worth in their family and feel as if they could just take their lives away and start completely fresh with no convictions, or, you know, a lot of the time they are so completely narcissistic that they believe every single lie that they're telling the wife, the mistress, his job. And you know, sometimes it's not just a man who is capable of being a family annihilator. There's not really another case that I can think of where the wife kills the family entirely. You know, like a lot of the times it's the wife kills the husband, or the wife kills the children, and a lot of the time it's not for a mistress or for a mister. I don't know what you call it when it's a man. I guess it would be a mister if a mistress is the name of a mistress. A lover that's a woman, so a lover that's a man, I'm assuming would be a mister. I don't know, I've never actually thought of that term before. Let me know in the comments if you guys have actually thought of the term of a male mistress. I don't know. Anyway, anywho, I digress. Moving back to what I was saying. It's not very well known that there is female annihilators out there, with the exception of Diane Downs. I know that she did kill, well, unsuccessfully tried to kill her children, and I do believe that Christy survived her attacker, her mother. Now, when a man does it, like, a man is supposed to be the hero of the family, the protector. So it's like an extra dose of evil, especially with daughters. Like, the man is supposed to be the protector of his family. It's just, it's pretty unheard of for, you know, for a man to do stuff like that. A lot of times when a man breaks the breach of trust, it's usually for incest reasons and not for murder reasons. There is, you know, a lot of men do commit murder, and unfortunately they do murder their children. It's I don't know, it's not something that I want to be. I don't want to have that compatibility. Like, it's not something that I'm really that curious about. I don't want to understand how it's possible that he could do that, because it's disgusting and it's vile and despicable, and, you know, all of those horrible words that he's the fucking boogeyman. That's Chris Watts in a nutshell. He is the boogeyman. You know, you tuck your children in at nighttime and you're supposed to protect them. And you know, you hear stories about the boogeyman coming out when you're asleep at night. And that is what Chris Watts did. He murdered his children twice. He murdered them after he murdered Shanann in their beds. He smothered them and murdered them again and again. I think he actually murdered them 3 times. The first time he smothered them either after he smothered Shanann or before Shanann came home from her business trip. And then, in his words, he smothered them in the truck when he was out at Survey 21 or Survey 21, I think it is, at the site. And then he murdered them again after he disposed of their bodies in the oil tanks where they drowned in oil and water. So he murdered his children 3 times. Like, just let that sink in for a minute. And Shanann, you know, you think that you know your husband. You marry a man, and you think that you know everything about your husband. You trust him. You fall down. He picks you up. You fall asleep at night, and you trust that when you fall asleep at night that you're going to wake up in the morning. Now, Shanann and I have something similar in common, whereas we laid down with a man who we trusted, with a man that, you know, we never thought that they would hurt us or defile our bodies in a way that a partner should not. And it's unfortunate that you put your trust into somebody that you think you know. And my favorite saying is, behind every person you think that you know, there's somebody that you probably know absolutely nothing about. And, like, it's true, behind every person there's always somebody lurking back there that we don't know a single freaking thing about. And, you know, Shanann said in her own words that he reached out through Facebook, and they met on Facebook through a friend request, and they got married 2 years after knowing each other. They knew each other for 8 years. They were married for 6 years. So, like, in actuality, Shanann didn't even really know who this man was. He could have had, he obviously had a monster persona underneath this nice guy act that he was playing. And that is so freaking scary, especially these days where a lot of people rely on online dating. That's, you know, like, it's a $1 billion industry that people are searching for compatibility. They're searching for love. They're searching for somebody that they can connect with, somebody that they can find themselves and get lost in. A partner, a life partner, you know, somebody that you want to share every single thing that you do in your life with. Something good happens, you share it with them. Something bad happens, you share it with them. Everything. You build a home, you build a life, you build a future with this person. And underneath that person, they're that person, that scary person who kills their wives, who kills their children. And I have some stuff, paperwork and stuff that I've had to go through, and, you know, the processes of moving on and growing and finding myself and finding the ability to be okay by myself. I've never been codependent. I've always been okay with being on my own. And I've been single for a really long time. This month is 8 years now that I've been single. The last guy that I dated was a horror. like, as I said, we laid down with a stranger, thinking that we knew them, and we knew nothing about them. The only difference is the person I lied down with wasn't a murderer. However, it quite very well could have ended up that way, because he was injecting me with heroin as I slept. So I was thankful after the fact that there was none of those times that he injected me with something that I could have died from. So, you know, like, that is quite possible that could have happened, and I'm grateful that it didn't. And I'm still learning and growing, and I have PTSD from that. It's very hard to open up to somebody after that, and trusting a partner after that, I think, will be a very, 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 very long process. It's, you know, I still sleep with knives under my pillows and a bat at each one of my doors. It's just, post-traumatic stress is not something that goes away easily, especially if you have been a victim of, you know, post-traumatic stress or abuse in the past, and it comes back and you allow yourself to have it happen again. It's very, you go through a lot of guilt and shame and remorse, and it takes some time getting used to the fact, used to the understanding, mind you, that it's not your fault, that, you know, you don't deserve these things to happen to you, or you didn't bring it on. It's unwarranted abuse. You know, it's not something that you asked for or something that you deserve. It's the person individually that's sick themselves, and they bring their sickness onto you. We're always told misery loves company, and like, I just like to reiterate the fact that happiness loves company a lot more. So I'm going to read you guys some papers, and hopefully help somebody that's, you know, maybe in a domestic violence situation, and gather the strength to be able to get out of it. You know, in this situation, Shanann didn't even know that it was too late until it was too late. She never fought back. So it's unknown if he caught her off guard, or if he caught her during the most intimate of acts, which would be, well, they're intimate with each other. You know, maybe they were in that sort of relationship where she liked to be choked a little bit, you know, like some girls do like fetish things, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So it is quite possible that during that act, he just never let go. She thought that he would let go the whole time, and he just didn't. So after, you know, maybe she passed out, and he just kept going, because with no defensive marks on him, it kind of leads the mind to wander a little bit, and that's where my mind wanders too. So I have some paperwork that I've gotten from my own therapist, so I'm going to switch the camera around and we'll go through it. So just give me 1 minute. Hey guys, so I don't claim to be like an expert on the topic or anything like that, but like, I haven't had the greatest of lives. I've been abused from a child. You know, my mom had a husband, my stepfather, who didn't really see the value in children, and, you know, thought that they were his own little puppets that he could stick his hands into. I don't know if that's, you know, YouTube is a very hard way to get around topics and conversation, and I don't really know the kind of wording I'm allowed to use and stuff like that. But I've, you know, like, I've experienced my own emotional abuse, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. So even though I don't claim to be an expert on it, I do have some first-hand experience in the topic myself, which I've had to have counseling on, which I've had to have therapy on. I remember going to a counselor when I was very, 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 very young, like 7, maybe 7. And you know, like when you're that old, you're just too little to understand really what's going on. When they say like, tell me on the dolls where he touched you, you're like, at least that's what I was like. You know, I just, maybe the ADHD doesn't help the fact out at all. So, you know, like, your mind just kind of goes to a different place. I don't know, maybe that's where the mental health first came along, and the disassociating fiction from reality, or reality from a disillusion, or, you know, like you can really go down a rabbit hole. And I try not to just ponder on the situation. It's, you know, just try and move on with it, you know. It's, even though there's lots of things that's followed me through my life that I'm not proud of, abuse is not one of those things, you know. So not all the time does the abused become the abuser, or not all the time does the bullied become the bully. They do, but not all the time. So I do have some, not some, I have a lot of paperwork on abuse and abusive relationships. The one I'm going to start with is called Why Women Stay. This is, it says, one of the most frustrating things for people outside a battering relationship is trying to understand why a woman doesn't just leave. The most important thing to keep in mind that extreme emotional abuse is always present in domestic violence situations. On average, an abused woman will leave her partner 6 to 8 times. The reasons they return or stay in a relationship vary from case to case. Some of these reasons include situational factors, economic dependence, how can she support herself and her child or children, fear of greater physical danger to herself and her children if they try to leave. Now that itself is one of the most dangerous times in a domestic violence situation, when the woman is trying to leave. The man is losing control, and that's one thing that a narcissistic partner does not want to happen, where it be men or women. I use men a lot, but it's prevalent in both sexes. Fear of being hunted down and suffering a beating worse than before. Survival. Fear that her partner will follow her and kill her if she leaves, often based on real threats by her partner. Fear of emotional damage to the children. Lack of alternative housing. She literally has nowhere else to go. Lack of job skills, and she might not be able to get a job. Social isolation, resulting in a lack of support from friends and family, which is the partner usually tries to segregate the victim, cut off all relationships that the partner had in the past, so that you're not. Don't ever feel that you are. They make you feel like you have nobody else. You have nowhere else to go. You're trapped there in that relationship. Social isolation, resulting in lack of information about the alternatives. There are so many outlets and places to go for. The abuser probably doesn't know, because he's not looking for these outlets. There's so many places to go. There's so many domestic violence recovery houses, safe houses. There's so many places. You don't have to feel like you're alone. A lack of understanding from family, friends, police, ministers, etc. Negative responses from community, police, court, social workers. Fear of involvement of the court processes because she may have had bad experiences before. Or the abuser makes you feel like you can't reach out to the police, or you can't reach out, oh, I'm already on probation. Oh, I'm already going through the courts. Oh, like they make you feel like you're going to make the situation so much worse for them that you don't have an alternative. That's not truth. Fear of the unknown. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Fear of ambivalence over making formidable life changes. Acceptable violence. The violence escalates slowly over time. Living with constant abuse numbs the victim so that she is unable to recognize that she is involved in a certain patterns of abuse. Ties to the community. The children have to leave their school. She would have to leave her friends, the neighborhood, things that you're familiar with. Like fear of change is always so crippling that there's so much already going on in your head that just the things that keep piling on, the thoughts of negativity, are just so absurd. Ties to your home and your belongings, Why do you have to leave? Why can't they leave? You want to stand your ground. Standing your ground sometimes is the most dangerous thing you can do. It's sometimes just better to take the clothes that's on your back and to just go. Just go. Family pressure, because moms always said, I told you it wouldn't work out, or I told you you make your bed, now you sleep in it. I told you, I told you, I told you. It's something that you don't want to hear, So if you're a friend listening to this and you fear your friend is in a domestic violence situation, you can't say, I told you so. We already know that the situation that we're in is probably pretty bad. So hearing